Okay, so I'm going to go through a judge's corner here for the TVCC's Judged Ranch Roping Series. This is the groundwork score sheets. As you can see, there's 10 different components and each one is worth 10 points. So the kids or participants will get a 100-point score in each class. Like I said, in the groundwork, phase 1, phase 2 is focused on instilling correct muscle memory. The thing about the lower level classes there is we're never focused on more than 2 things at a time. Overall, we're trying to help the kids or beginners advance in 5 different areas: horsemanship, stockmanship, roping, teamwork, and time. And part of time, what I say, is speed regulation, being able to go slow and being able to get a little speed and still having correct muscle memory. So as you can see here, I kind of zoom in here on the horsemanship. I'll go through a video here and I'll show more about it, but they'll complete an obstacle course while demonstrating a correct swing. And then I want them to demonstrate willing submission in vertical direction. So I'll go through here some different vocab words that I try to instill into these students. So just some basic horse training definitions in groundwork is the willing submission, which is after initial cue, the horse does the job on a loose rein and no leg pressure. So when the horse is doing his job, did the kid give him his head and let him know he's doing what he wanted him to do? And then the other one is vertical direction or flexion, which is when the slack is taken out of the rein, the horse puts the slack back in the rein with suppleness through the pull and the loin. And another description of this would be a soft feel. So I'll show that in the video in just a second. And then the other thing I want to introduce here is just the definition of stockmanship. And stockmanship is the ability to read flight zone or pressure zone and balance point that influence the speed and direction of an individual animal or entire herd of animals. So flight zone, define that as the area or bubble around an animal that when encroached upon will ignite their self-preservation of flight, fight, or freeze. And pressure zone is the area or bubble around the animal that causes movement in response to a presence. And so ideally, as we're working cows, as we're working out of a roe deer, we want to use pressure zone instead of flight zone. That flight zone is, when I say that, they're in their self-preservation, which that would be their sympathetic nervous system, which means that animal is stressed and bothered. And as a cattle producer, that's when we're losing a lot of money. And that doesn't mean once we rope them, obviously, when we neck them, they may fall in their sympathetic nervous system. But a big part of this is how do we keep that low stress? And that's one of the things I really want to teach people in this class is sometimes the least amount of stress on that animal is to go a little bit faster. So like when we do head them, sometimes the least amount of stress is to get that animal kind of going in a straight line to give our heeler a straight, consistent shot instead of just sitting there and doing nothing and not giving an animal where the animal goes around a bunch of circles and then finally is so choked down that he has to stand there where you can throw a hip shot on him or whatever. So huge part of this program is keeping low stress and really what that looks like. And then balance point, that's the point on the animal that influences their direction of forward, backward, and stop. And so as we come back over here on the dummy, on the stockmanship component, I'll have them just rope a stationary dummy to practice swinging twice and throwing. That's really what I try to instill in these kids, is not to just chase the animal swinging a bunch, but to set up your shot. And I'll talk about that more in the video. And then to use flight zone and balance point to help shape up the shot, and then whether they caught them or not. On the roping component, we'll be looking at horsemanship and roping. Even though they're not necessarily on a horse, we'll be scoring their left hand, which is their coil hand, and what that hand is doing. And then also the roping, their swing delivery and their follow through. So you can see there, like 6 is focused on their horsemanship, what that hand is doing, and then 7 there is focused on their rope. And then same thing on 8 on the head dummy, it's what is their left hand doing, and then 9, that's what their right hand is doing. And really the key I want to instill in these kids at this stage is the key to being successful in your right hand, your roping hand, is it's having correct muscle memory and really paying attention to what your left hand is doing. A lot of times with beginners starting out, they kind of forget about their left hand, and that's what leads to a lot of improductivity with their roping or their right hand. And then obviously catches, what was their total catches there. And so that's a little bit of the judge's corner of what the score sheets look like in the groundwork, and now I'll go through the videos of specifically what that looks like. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the horsemanship component on the groundwork score sheet. Some of the big muscle memory I'm trying to get established here is a good swing and still feel of your horse. Okay, a lot of times as soon as people get a rope in their hand, they're not feeling of their horse at all. Okay, and this is the hand that puts me in position, and if I'm not in position, it's hard to be very productive in this hand. So the vocab words we're looking for here is number one, willing submission. If they're doing what they want, you're able to give them their head and ride them on a loose rein. And then the other one is vertical direction. When you take the slack out of the rein, does your horse come into your hand and soften? Okay? We're going to just talk about stockmanship here in a minute, and we influence stockmanship through flight zone and balance point. And if I can't pick up on my horse and have him soft in the face and move his feet, I'm going to be going too far into the flight zone and too far ahead of the balance point, and it's hard to have very productive and precise stockmanship. So through this, we're going to weave in and out of these barrels, and we're looking for those two vocab words, and we're looking for a good swing. Then I'm going to have them come right over the top of this stick here, about 5 or 6 steps, and then stop, throw their loop, stop straight, dally by looking straight up, not looking at their horn, and back up. Okay? So pretty basic. We'll just go through that now. Okay, there's one thing that I didn't add there, and I'll show you guys one more time that's really key, is where the rider is putting his weight, okay? As soon as someone gets a rope in their hand, they instantly want to lean. When you do that, you push your horse the opposite way. So if I'm trying to rope something over here, I want to push my weight to the opposite side to help get him in position. Okay, so I'll go through this one more time, and you can see I'm swinging. But if I want to go to the right, I'm putting more weight in my left stirrup. And then if I want to go to the left, I'm putting more weight in my right stirrup. That helps my horse come back in between me. Horse's head staying right into my hand, nice and soft. Stop straight. Dally, vertical direction, and stage 2 back to the post. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So this is what I call dummy doctrine. Okay. So through all of this, it's ranch roping and team roping. So the whole thing is to get kids good in a rope. With the rope, whether they're going slow or fast. And that's the beauty about ranch roping. A lot of people in the Great Basin, there's an amazing opportunity to make great rope horses through instilling through solid ranch roping. So that's the focus of this deal. So with this, the biggest difference between ranch roping and team roping or calf roping or breakaway, all of those events were coming right behind the animal to rope it, okay? And the thing with ranch roping, we're not trying to stress this animal, so we're trying to sneak a loop on him. Okay, so with ranch roping, we're hardly ever going to come in from behind. But even in this program, we do the ranch roping, we hold roe deer, and then I have pasture doctrine. And there is a time when you try to sneak a loop on them, if you're pasture doctrine and you miss, well then you got to run to the middle of them just like you're team roping or calf roping and be able to run in the middle of them and rope them, okay? And so I want kids to be able to have both, be able to go slow or fast. Okay, but for the sake of this, I really want to help kids be able to get the sneak loop. So some of the things there, we'll talk about more about flight zone and balance point over there. But the balance point, the flight zone is a bubble around an animal. When I go into him, then I'm going to ignite his self-preservation. So let's pretend that there's a little bubble here. Okay, it's a bubble, or it's an area. And so this is on your score sheets, but my definition for stockmanship is the ability to read flight zone or pressure zone and balance point to influence the speed and direction of an animal or an entire herd of animals. Okay, so flight zone is the area when I step into it, I'm going to ignite his self-preservation where he wants to move. Okay, it's a bubble, it's an area around him. Okay, and so when I step in here, he's going to move. Balance point is the point on the animal where I influence his direction. So when I say flight zone or pressure zone, because really flight zone, a lot of times we think we're pushing that animal into his sympathetic nervous system, which would be fight or flight. Animals basically have two nervous systems: sympathetic, which is when they're operating with fear, which is high adrenaline and high stress, or parasympathetic nervous system, where they're not stressed. And so really, as a cattle producer, we're going to make a lot more money if we can keep low stress, okay? So ideally, I want to influence this cow not through flight zone, scaring him everywhere, but through pressure zone, where I step in here and it's just like asking my horse to move. I bring my leg in, I don't want him scared and running, but I want him to move off that, okay? So I step into the bubble, the pressure zone or flight zone here, and he moves. Balance point is the point that I influence the direction. So one thing about it, the more I swing my loop, the more I'm going to scare the animal. And the other thing, where I swing. So if I'm swinging behind here in his behind him in his blind spot, he's going to be more scared. But if I can go like this, say I'm walking by him this way, I'm walking by him this way, I go past him like this, a lot of times he's not as worried by me. And that's what we practice doing, is taking some different shots. We'll walk past this way, swing twice, and throw. And that's why I want to help kids. Everything is swinging twice. What I find with cows is you swing once, they kind of come up and look at you. You swing twice and they start moving. You swing more than that, and now you're chasing them. Okay? So in the with the groundwork with the little kids, okay, all we're going to do honestly is just have them be aware of flight zone and balance point. I'm not expecting a lot out of these kids. They don't need to turn the cow into a way or nothing. All they need to do, I just want them to kind of be aware of it. And then honestly, the kids, I'll just turn them loose and they can try roping. Whether it's kids or whether it's people, if they're kind of aware of flight zone or balance point, and then just try to rope them. One of my favorite shots is, say a cow's right here. Okay, I can kind of block him. I can slightly be ahead of the balance point. I can block him, just step behind the balance point, come into the flight zone, and he's going to go forward. So I can be right here, I can step right there, take the shot, and I'm going to run him right into my loop. Okay? So that's kind of the basics with the groundwork. Okay?